everyone. Trust that we are fine. Uh, it's a privilege to be joining you once again and sharing with you on our weekly SME Roundtable. Uh, I feel honored to join you guys from several platforms where you are joining us and from different countries we are joining. We want to say welcome again to you. On today's episode, we'll be looking at uh, an interesting topic that has already been scheduled for today. I will be the one making presentation today, sharing with us some of the things that we can learn, how we can improve our businesses and position ourselves rightly for the opportunities that lies ahead of us as business owners, especially within the context of Africa. So basically, today I will be speaking largely about the AfCFTA, that's African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Now has been signed by quite a lot of countries. To say that everybody has actually signed up for this. So without much ado, I would just like to start so that we can quickly share what we have for us today. But before we go ahead into that, I would briefly like to talk about who we are and what we do. I work with Pest Consulting. Pest Consulting is a management consulting firm that provides services to the organization in achieving their growth and expansion targets. We are committed to strengthening the internal processes and capacities of organizations by constantly providing services that enable them to become more profitable, sustainable, and scalable in the long run. Our ultimate goal is to see that we have a prosperous Africa continent where our young people have the leverage and opportunity to pursue and fulfill their dreams. So basically, that's exactly what we'll be doing today. It's against this backdrop that we've started the SME Roundtable, where we are engaged sector actors to have this conversation and see how we can all leverage on the enormous opportunities that are available in Africa. So to this end, today um, will be looking at the after the future of Africa's trade and economic growth because that's exactly what it represents. I will also be um, talking about the challenges that we might face, uh, or that that the African continent is likely to face in implementing this particular agreement. Also, what are the other ways that we can find in terms of solutions on how to better analyze the opportunity that lies in this agreement for all of us. So the the key focus of what we're talking about today is leveraging the AfCFTA to boost entrepreneurship in Africa. Why I'm focusing on opportunities for SMEs in this context of this particular framework. Before we continue, we'd like to first of all talk about what it is AfCFTA stands for, what it means, and how we can better position as business owners to enhance it. Um, so the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is majorly, let me just give you a little bit of background into what led to it. It's one of the agenda of the age for the Vision 2063, the African we want, where we have one single market, void of the trade barriers that we have seen that exists as we currently have it in Africa, so as to promote intra-trade within Africa context. With the population of Africa estimated to be around 1.3 billion people, with over, I think, about eight economic regions in Africa. Uh, so that kind of is like the ones the biggest single trade area in the world because of the number of countries that are involved. So the African Free Trade Area Agreement will create the largest free trade area in, uh, in the world, measured by the number of countries participating. Uh, the part connects 1.3 billion people across 55 countries with a combined gross domestic product of around 3.4 trillion US dollars. That's according to the World Bank. As of today, we have 44 countries that have fully deposited their ratification instruments as updated by the AfCFTA website today. So what I have on my slide is 43. As of this morning, there are now 44 countries that have deposited their ratification instruments. This agreement is projected to lift 30 million people out of extreme poverty and further people, 68 million people hovering just above poverty line. So it's estimated to contribute $450 billion to the economy of Africa by 2035. Also, West Africa will see the biggest decline in the number of people living in extreme poverty. West Africa is estimated to see 12 million people being lifted out of extreme poverty, which is kind of quite significant, representing like more than a third of the total number of people that were lifted out of extreme poverty in Africa. Another thing we also get from these agreements is that it will mean larger wages gains for women, at least 10.5% more than men, which should be 9.9% for men. There will also be boosts in the wages for both skilled and unskilled workers. But we are going to experience more unskilled workers having an increase in their wage because of this African Free Trade Agreement. So these are the benefits, but it's also very important to talk about what are the major challenges that we have right now in Africa and what are the opportunities that this AfCFTA can help us to articulate or announce. So what I have done is to put them together because what you see as the opportunities is also the challenges. So as business owners, it's very important for us to see, to not just only see the the implications of the opportunities, but also to understand the challenges so that when we are developing solutions, our solutions are better positioned to actually solve these real problems that are confronting us as a continent. Okay, so what are the challenges? So the first that you see before any trade or commerce can be promoted in any region, one of the major challenges you have to solve is the issue of logistics. It's a crucial part of trade facilitation because if I place an order for a good or for a service for a good in Ethiopia, how soon can I get it in Nigeria or in Ghana or in places like Uganda? How soon can you get it to Gambia? Movement across Africa has been a major challenge. Our rail system are not intercontinental. So kind of it's a major challenge. However, it's also an opportunity for countries, for individuals to begin to see because this trade is upon us now, and with better policy framework that enables Africans to now trade in themselves. So I think this is a major challenge that can be addressed, and that if addressed can help us to better position our continent for shared prosperity. I think the next thing that I have there is security. Security still remains a challenge. However, if we are able to, the security challenges are also things that technology can help us to solve. So these are areas of opportunity for small business owners, especially those that are in tech, because majority of the security problems that we face in Africa can be addressed with the deployment of technology in terms of profiling, data collections that can help prosecution, can help crime mitigation and prevention, and all of these things are very very essential. So even in litigations on criminal matters, how easy is it for you to get the necessary data or information that you can use to prosecute such cases. So these are the issues that we are facing and that we need to address. Okay, so the next is that we also have to address is the competitive global market. Um, Places like China, Europe, America, they are also as competitive as they will ever be in terms of their advancement in technology and other things. And we also observe that producing stuff there is a lot more cheaper there because of the advancement in technology. So they are able to get what we call the economy of scale through their ability to mass produce quality products. So these are the challenges that we have to find a way to resolve. So then the question is, how then do we up our game in terms of the quality of the product we are producing, and then how then do we be able to produce them at a scale that enables us to build down the cost of production so that we can be competitive. These are the issues that we really need and have to address for African to be able to be competitive in the global markets. So these are some of the things that we need to address. It's a challenge as it is right now because I could remember during COVID, we had businesses that we consult for that were into manufacturing. I realized they were manufacturing fish locally in Nigeria, but unfortunately, they were unable to compete with products that are coming in from China because those were cheaper. And they are more sophisticated. So it's a challenge because it's very important that we need to now begin to talk about technology advancement. How do we then begin to how then do we begin to add more for upscale our people, upscale our technology, invest more into capital in manufacturing so that we're able to better produce, which is one of the things that AfCFTA is actually seeking to achieve, to see that we are adding more value to our raw materials so that we can sell them at a better or at a fairer value than we are currently getting. Funding for scale. So I think it's also very important that we rethink the kind of funding available to businesses and meet the growth expectations. So these are very, very important issues. Majority of the funding that comes to businesses in Africa come from foreign companies, foreign entities. And we are all aware that Africa, as contrary to how it is being portrayed as a poor nation, we have individuals, we have organizations that are successful in Africa, who then need to see funding for scale as funding other businesses as part of the strategy to grow the entire ecosystem of businesses within African space. So these are areas that we now need to rethink how this model is being implemented, because if funding is left for organizations in other parts of the world, then we're still going to have challenges with the issue of forex and all of those things. So these are areas that we also have to look at. Lastly, on the challenges and the opportunities, the political and social integration. The emergence of new breed of leaders with the will and the foresight to build a robust framework for sustained growth is essential, so is the embrace of our cultural diversity. We need to have this. It's a challenge now because oftentimes when you move from one part of Africa to the other, uh, feedback that we've gotten from other businesses that we work with sometimes are not too good. But these are challenges that I think that we can surmount there. Um, when we are talking about the way out, way forward, we'll talk further about what we think can be done to address some of all of these things. So, what must we do? Number one, we say the policy framework with the political will. For the framework, which is the AfCFTA, to work, then each member state needs to develop the policy framework and follow it up the political way to ensure that these things are locally implemented. As it is, it's just a document. But for it to actually drive industrialization and inclusive economic development, which is a must. The starting point is the strategic goal for each country, and their plan of achieving it has to be well spelled out. So there's need for each country to sit down and then begin to look at what can we do with the context of our people, of our nation, and peculiarity of our resources and our capabilities, because it's very, very important to also itemize the organizational resources uh, to be competitive in the space in the market that the AfTA is providing. So this is a must. Is a must. And then also the next thing is Africa is regarded as a young population. So what then means is that relevant skills for development, especially for the youth, needs to be at the front burner. In the sense that because that is the only way we can attain that level of sophistication that is required for us to actually promote uh, global competitiveness among our producers and in the global markets. So it's a crucial source of industrialization. And also the next thing that we need to look out for is the issue of business development and growth initiatives. Um, Majority of the leading incubators and accelerator programs in the world are usually based out of Africa. These are things that we now need to re-engineer so that we can begin to develop incubators, accelerators who are designed to solve African problems, who are looking at the context of Africa, who are developing solutions with the lenses of Africa at the back of their mind. And they're using African case studies, peculiar situations as the case study to provide a solution that meets African needs. So these are some of the areas that we also have to look at. So the business development and growth initiatives, even sponsored by government, individuals, and organizations, has to be looked at. Also, investment in infrastructure. Investment in infrastructures, like we said now, for example, in the area of logistics now, there's need for mass investment in the areas of rail, intercontinental rails across Africa for the movement of goods and services in a way that somebody in South Africa can order a product in Ethiopia and it get delivered easily. And then these are some of the areas that we also have to look at. Even our other some of the annoying thing is that if they are part of Africa that there are no direct flights from Nigeria or from Ghana or from other parts of Africa to those areas. You first of all have to leave the continent of Africa and then come back to Africa. These are areas and issues that needs to be addressed for us to really get the full benefit of what AfTA has to offer us. We also talk about investment in infrastructure, and then we move on to the next one. We must break the language and the cultural barrier. One of the challenges you see across Africa is that we are so divided with the context of Africa in the way that we are structured. Part of what divides us is the colonial identities as Anglophone, Francophone, Lusophone, and what have you. What we need to rise above these identities because these languages are not indigenous to us in the first place. In pre-colonial times, the prosperity of the Shanghai, Mali, Ghana, and Oyo Empire was the period of open trade. So this after is not necessarily new to us. It was something that we were normally doing prior to now until colonization came to Africa, which kind of segregate us. And with the language barrier, so we have people who are just French speaking, people who are Portuguese speaking, people who are English speaking, kind of make it difficult for us to trade. And then we now have a situation where places like Lagos and Port Novo that share similar history and language and culture and now have trade restrictions. We should open our borders and find innovative ways to solve the new problem that we emerge. This is a quotation from one of a leading proponent of Africa uh, we want, I'm from the person of Femi Balogun. So we need more cultural exchange program. We have a lot of international exchange program. We need to learn about Africa, other African countries, about Rwanda. That would then make us to appreciate ourselves more and the richness of our diversity, and how we can then use these to engage ourselves in the way we develop our services and product to meet the need of each member state. What used to be another problem is the issue of payment. However, with the advent of payment solutions like Paystack, which is now a member of Stripe and the likes, so they've been able to help address this issue of payment across Africa. Because one of the challenges you see in African trade is that, say, in Nigeria, you want to go to a place like Ghana, for instance. Now, if you want to trade in Ghana, you will first need to convert your money from naira to dollar, and then from dollar back to cedis. And by doing this double conversion, you kind of lose money, and that kind of raise the cost of your product. So these are some of the challenges that we need to address. Um, for bigger organization, however, the problems they persist. And, sometimes you have to go through the central bank of your local country to be able to make a certain procurement. All of these payments has to be, though partially it has been solved, it's something that we really have to look at and see how well we can improve on all of these things. Um, Another issue that we also have to talk about is the issue of arbitration. So, and I know there are a lot of other. Then how do we who can serve as a custodian? So, in case we are trying to do trade between Nigeria and say a place like Togo, who is under a different jurisdiction and different law entirely. So, how do we begin to look at all of these things to ensure that trade agreements under like AfCFTA can help us to solve this? Then we need to look at the arbitrators, the custodians that will help us to facilitate such trade. So these are some of the issues that we think we can cover so far today. Um, in conclusion, the potentials are enormous, but we need to be intentional about what we want from our AfCFTA as a nation and as a region. So thank you so much, everyone. And that will be the end of my presentation. I will now take a few questions from all the various platforms where we have been joined for today's session. Thank you. Okay, we have this. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, it's such an interesting concept, and it also poses a huge opportunity for our businesses that we be taking because we now have a bigger market to deal with. So, so these are some of the things that I think this particular agreement will offer an average business owner. Okay, all right. Okay. What economic challenge does after address? Economic challenges that after, of course, it's majorly it's about trade, removing trade barriers. Removing it does remove trade barriers. I kind of allow somebody that is selling something in Lagos, Nigeria, you could sell to other parts because, as you know, in terms of trade, custom duties, all of those things are major challenges that you have to navigate to be able to trade within Africa context. So with this, kind of help us to address that. So yeah, it does that, and also it promotes intra trade because we now have a huge market as well. So kind of help us to do that. How can business reshape the implementation of AfCFTA? So in terms of implementation, so the implementation now, it's each country is expected to develop their own framework on how they are going to implement AfCFTA in the context of their country. So what you expect business owners and their communities, business community owners to do is to engage the relevant stakeholders within their country to see, to understand that, okay, this is our, like I said, your strategy has to be clear as a country. So how do we want to position ourselves as a country to better enhance the opportunity that AfCFTA promises to deliver to us? So it is within this context that business owners can now reshape the way it is being implemented within the context of their country. Because there will be takers, there will be losers at the initial stage. But overall, if each member state are able to develop, because everybody has what we have, what the competitive advantage or the competitive edge that is peculiar to them. So if they can then leverage that, we can then begin to see how this implementation can be reshaped to suit the narrative of the business owner within the context of each country. What's enough for African women? Yes, like I said earlier, it's going to, like I said, it's going to under my key highlights. One of the things that you see from AfCFTA is that you have what do we say? What do we have here now? There will be larger wage gains for women, 10.5%. So women are expected to get more wages off the back of AfCFTA compared to men, which is men would be 9.9%, which is like quite significant. And don't forget, the extreme poverty is 30 million. But the people that are hovering over extreme poverty as we have it right now is going to help at least 68 million of them. So if you put that figure together, the number of people who we have access to SDG Goal 8, which is decent work and better economic realities, is going to be roughly, that's almost 100 million people. And that's significant. That's significant. And so that is some of the things that women are likely going to get. And with more investments into women entrepreneurship, then they can have a better position to even do more because African businesses, we have a lot of women that are into African business, that are into entrepreneurship in Africa compared to other part of the world. So basically, with better trade, it means that women will have better uh, realities, economic realities than other part of the world. Okay. So I think I still have room for one more question before our time here is up. Um, okay. How does AFCFT benefit SMEs? So I think it is the provision of large markets. All right. So what it does means is that there's what we call the servable market, accessible market, or addressable market. So basically, what it does is that it increases the market size, the accessible market size for a typical SME. So what it means is that with the advent of technology, internet penetration, which is on the increase in Africa, and more young people taking to tech. So what it does mean is that Small businesses that are leveraging technology will have access to penetrate to that part of Africa to actually sell their product or their services. So the opportunity there for SMEs are quite enormous, like I as I've stated earlier on. So it's kind of opened up the market space, yeah, and it kind of with the help of technology, and for those SMEs that will be leveraging technology, then they can reach a wider audience. So they don't you can be in Nigeria and serving that part of Africa, and we currently have testimony regarding that now. For example, if you look at the Afro beats of Nigeria now, basically, it's like the song is the global song now. It's like the global song for everyone, right? So basically, they're able to do that by leveraging technology and stuff like that. So it's like an hint to the possibility that lies with AfCFTA. So with that, you could, wherever you are selling, well, as long as the product is good, the quality of you is good, it's great, and then the price is nice, and then we are able to, the price is right, then they can expand their market. They have access to a bigger and larger market size, and then that means they can have accelerated growth. They can then, once they have accelerated growth, then it can translate to more employment for other young people, and also lifting others out of poverty, and then grow the GDP of the country, increase income per capita of African countries, and then it can also help us to begin to add value to the service, to the product that we have, especially the agriculture-based products that we currently export in raw form. Then we can begin to process them, begin to truly industrialize uh, the continent. So basically, so that's just some of the benefit that I think SMEs can get for now. But I think it's the potentials are basically enormous. They are really, really enormous for business owners. So I think that will be it. That will be the last question I will be taking for today. If you have further questions, please feel free to drop them on the link that you have. We will take them and then we'll get back to you. Um, so I'd like to say thank you once again for your time. Thank you for joining us until next week when we shall be joining you again for another exciting edition. We should be talking about other topics, another topic that will be of interest to you. Our advice to you is to keep striving for excellence, keep doing the best that you can, keep pushing to ensure that the goal that you have set for your business is attained. Be prudent, reach out for help. Best consultants are available to be of service to support you. Is our commitment. We would love to partner with you to see that your business continue to grow and scale. Until that time, next week, leave you with God. God bless you all.